Hey y'all, it's Nikki Winston. Welcome to the WERKin Mommas podcast. Thank you as always for tuning in. This is a bonus episode, a freestyle episode, whatever you want to call it, but this is just one of those episodes where a thought has come to me and I'm not in a position to write down some show notes or get in front of my podcast mic and record. I'm actually in the car leaving my West house on my way back to my North house. So I have been riding past my old church right now. So just having some nostalgic moments. But just wanted to just put some things in the air, in the universe, because I am a firm believer in speaking things into existence. And I'm a tad bit delayed because leaving my West house, we in Georgia, y'all know things change all the time. They have basically chopped down a lot of the trees and stuff that was out here. The roads getting to my house have changed a bit, so I'm trying to adapt to this new detour. And the road that I was so used to taking, which was like some little back roads that I used to take to get to the highway, are now grass. And they have blocked it off and created a whole new road. And the street looks a little bit different out here. And it's funny that this this change and this transition, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And interestingly, it's the perfect analogy to what I have going on right now. So as I mentioned, my North house and my West house, leaving my West house right now en route to my North house is going to take me about an hour to get there. I doubt if this freestyle episode is going to be an hour, but just really talking about transition and how things change and how we're so used to taking that traditional route, that same route, and then when you least expect it, here comes a change. Like I didn't know the extent of the change. My neighbors who still live out here, my neighbors slash my friends who still live out here have been telling us about, yeah, they done blocked off the road and they've been doing construction and doing this, that, and the third. But it's different when you see it for yourself, how different it is, because it's like, wow, this is new. This takes some getting used to. And so you drive a little bit slower because you're trying to figure out where is the new turn and what does it look like now, and all these different things that are going on with my house, but also just in my life in general, and specifically in my businesses. I am in this transitional phase. And I'm that person, when everybody zigs, I zag. And with all of this zagging, I'm creating the blueprint. I'm creating the path that I want my businesses to take. And it might not be the right one, but hell, it might be the right one. It might be the perfect one. It might be the one that the world has been waiting for. And it might not be. But in the spirit of being realistic, it might not be. But in the spirit of being optimistic and believing in my ideas and what I'm creating, I'm telling myself and I'm telling the universe that this path, this non-traditional path that I'm taking, is the right one. So I'm talking specifically about like social media. So I jumped off of social media for a couple days, a couple weeks, which is usually what I do when I'm when I'm deep into an idea and I'm just really trying to create some shit and make it come to life. I get off of social media. I leave behind all the things that are not conducive to me getting to where I want to be as far as my path and my businesses are concerned. And I watch my social media metrics as far as like the people who watch my stories. Well, I used to check all the time and watch the people and see who's watching my stories and just get a feel for who the repeat supporters are and who the new people are. But my engagement had grew so much to where it was like 400, 500, 600 people watching my stories. And I'm like, I don't have time to scroll through and look at all these people. And my posts would get the same type of engagement. The 500-600 people were the people who were watching my Insta stories. And I remember earlier this year I would create my Insta stories and I was trying to like put the hashtags, the popular hashtags, so people can find it and they can get more engagement. And the engagement still wasn't growing. So I just said, fuck it. I don't have time to try to figure out this Instagram algorithm, who's doing what. And to be honest, a part of me don't really want a whole bunch of people seeing what I'm posting because I'm just not that person. Like, I'm not the person to create content to be out there. I like to put out shit that I think is important to people and what I feel like is going to help somebody. So I use my metrics to gauge what's getting the most traction and what people are paying the most attention to. And then that's what I focus on putting out, but then I'll still put out other things. Like when I look at my podcast metrics, for example, the two most frequently downloaded episodes are number one, the CPA exam episode, where it's CPA Q&A. I think it's episode 5 of the WERKin Mommas podcast. So if you search Spotify, or not Spotify, SoundCloud, I think it's Spotify too. I think Spotify just put me on. So Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple, if you search the WERKin Mommas podcast, the WERKin is spelled WERKIN Mommas podcast, you will find my episodes. And the one that people listened to the most was the CPA exam Q&A. That got like 100 and something downloads in less than 24 hours. So I didn't know if somebody listened to it and shared it to a bigger audience or what happened with the engagement. But one day it was just hundreds of downloads in less than 24 hours. So I'm like, what is this? I don't know, but I'll take it. So that led me to the conclusion that people, the CPA candidates, need help. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for support. And so I started creating more content about that. I actually just wrapped up a collab last week that I did with one of my CPA friends that we're going to put that out pretty soon. And then there's another um, person in the space who was doing something similar, trying to help CPA candidates get over the hump. And so she reached out to me to see if I would be interested in doing a collab with her. So I've been doing a lot of collabs, a lot of um, just working with people who we're in the similar space, and we're doing this CPA coaching, tutoring, something to that effect. And so anytime somebody reaches out to me to do something like that, if I feel like it's a good match, I will definitely do it because it is so needed. But the other episode that is just getting tons of downloads is my episode. It might be 4. I don't know which episode it is, but it's tax tips for entrepreneurs, freelancers, and small business owners. And I put that out because I see a lot of people on social media. My waves is talking in my ear, but I see a lot of people on social media who have these bomb ass business ideas, or they're freelancers landing these big contracts with these big brands, and I just see people doing amazing things, but then when it comes to making the money, when it comes to handling the money, when it comes to trying to grow the money, they just don't have the know-how or the knowledge. And that's my background as a CPA, as a fellow entrepreneur, as a Black girl in a space that's dominated by white men who are baby boomers. Just, we just gonna keep it 1,000 on here. We all know that the accounting industry is dominated by mostly white men. And I did a presentation a few weeks ago to some CPA exam students, and we were just talking about the metrics of not only Black CPAs, but just minority CPAs. So Blacks, Hispanics, I don't even know if that was the right term. If it was not, I totally apologize. But CPAs of color, non-white CPAs, we were looking at the metrics, and we saw that back 50 years ago, the percentage of CPAs of Black CPAs in the industry was maybe 1%, somewhere around the 1% mark. And then here we are 50 years later, and there are, out of all the CPAs, all the licensed active CPAs, only 3% are Black CPAs. I don't know if they were looking at Black CPAs or CPAs of color in general, but the bottom line is we have some serious work to do if in 20 years we've only increased the number of CPAs of color from 1% to 3%. That is a dismal number. I mean, just so defeating and so unmotivating. But then, me being the person I am, I had to peel it back a little bit more and say, okay, let's unpack this. What's driving or what's not driving this number? And looking at the numbers, we see that Black CPA candidates quit the exam journey, the CPA exam journey, at 3 times the rate of white candidates and maybe double the rate of Hispanic candidates. And it got to a point where it was like, if a Black candidate fails one section of the exam, they take the exam the first time and they fail, and then they just don't do it again. They just quit after the first fail. And I'm sitting up here like, really? Really? Says the person who sat down in front of that computer 13 times, you quit after the first time? So that's why I do what I do when it comes to CPA review, trying to get candidates over the hump and really help them to be successful on this exam because of those beyond lackluster statistics when it comes to us staying the course and getting the